Hello, class. I'm Paul Muzila. My topic that I'm using for paper 4 in this presentation is why loot boxes need to be regulated like gambling. This topic is important to me just on the sense that I play video games a considerable amount of time and something that I've enjoyed for quite a lot of years. But it's something that I've noticed within the community that has grown a lot more and has been around. It's something that should be, I think, looked more into, or at least, at the very least, regulated in some sense, especially for anyone under the age of 21. If it's above, different story, but this is where the issue is that these games are marketed and looked at for kids, like kids are new playing video games. Just to briefly go over like what they are, because many people don't know what they are. Um, Loot boxes, basically, are a virtual item within like video games are usually a box you can purchase that contains like, a assortment of cosmetic items ranging in rarity. Now, what that means in a game like CS:GO, that means it's a weapon case or some other loot box in that sense it's within the game. You typically can earn these loot boxes throughout by playing the game or by purchasing them. Then you also need to purchase a key to then open up that box. You go and open it, and you get a random reward. And some of these items can be worth like 10 cents. The incredibly rare and high rarity ones can be worth upwards of thousands of dollars. To like the one I just had looked at recently was over $1 million because it's a one of item that was able to be opened from one of these boxes. I'm going to play a little clip of just like what the process is here and what is shown, like when you open up a loot box. And that is it. That is the entire 20 seconds it takes for you to click open a box, open it up, and get a reward. And typically these boxes range in price, but maybe around $250 is what the cost is a key. So if you're going for a specific item, if you're going for something like a high rarity category, like if it's like an ultra rare or something down above that, you have to do this many, many times. So that idea of like that fear of missing out is a huge factor there. Like trying to actually like get an item at that point. So someone may put in hundreds of dollars trying to go for an item that's potentially worth much more than that. In the same way as gambling, may never like get that item, but that's something we'll discuss here. All right. The problems with loot boxes. Now, the whole issue, or at least like the biggest issue here, is that the the games that contain loot boxes are aimed predominantly at children or teenagers or adults, but still aimed at people that shouldn't be gambling. The kind of the whole idea behind it is that like they're put into the game so you can get these cool cosmetic items, but you can't just directly purchase them. There's many games that do just allow direct purchasing of the cosmetic item, but then there's other ones that have this essentially scheme or this process where you can't directly buy, you have to go through a loot box. So that's a massive issue because the fear of missing out is one huge thing because there's all sorts of different loot boxes that contain all sorts of different rewards. And the same thing, you're kind of chasing for an item, and it kind of feels like in the same way if you're chasing for a reward at a casino. You're like hitting a slot machine, hoping you're going to get all sevens and win and be all excited. And it does happen, like as the case with loot boxes, that they give you typically they're now giving you percentages and like odds, so you understand that it's not a great like proposition in any aspect to be opening these boxes unless you are going for something. But that's how it goes. And then and then just with that is causing more gambling addiction to occur. From the one article from the Royal site that they had done, they were going through just like people that play games that contain loot boxes, and then those people that actually do purchase them, how there's a rise in either problematic gambling or at least just like a tendency to gamble more than they would have originally had there not been loot boxes within that game. The other issue is that none of these game developers have an incentive not to make these loot boxes in their game. Typically, these are free games. They use this as an incentive model to pay for the servers, pay for the developers. So, it is a huge industry for these loot boxes to exist in these games. Currently, Valve, who runs CS:GO, in the year 2022, and now we're in 2025 already, which probably has gone up a bunch. They made over $1 billion just off loot boxes, just off virtual items with virtual keys and with no real material needed for outside of the time it takes to develop and the time for just to have the servers paid for, which is minute in comparison to that amount of money. And then the idea too, it's like the fear of missing out. You get these special time loot boxes where you're trying to get a Christmas box as a Christmas skin, like a weapon skin. There's all sorts of things like that where it's only available for a certain amount of time, and maybe you're trying to compare to your friends or people around you, and you won't be able to also get that item in that sense. I'll move on to solutions. And solutions here. One of the biggest solutions I would see is that we could just ban loot boxes for anyone under the age of 21. Now that may be difficult because parental controls and all of these things we have to actually implement into these games that we don't really have in the US or in Europe as well right now, where the biggest solution to loot boxes is in the country of China right now, where currently it is completely banned to have loot boxes within their video games, and you can't purchase them. They don't allow for it. They have facial ID. They have all these different controls put in place so that children just can never purchase them. And they see they've studied and seen all the mental effects it has on children, and they have a lot more things that are banned over there, be it games, be it times children are allowed to play. And once you're an adult, it's a whole different story where these things can be allowed, but not in games that are geared towards children. And the big thing the US can do is start looking more into potentially banning it. It was looked at in 2019, 2018 with Senator Josh Hawley had put in a bill, but that didn't get anywhere, unfortunately. And just there's been other states that have been trying to and the FTC has been looking at trying to put in regulations and doing that same, but they really haven't gotten anywhere because there isn't this massive push for it, unfortunately. The other big issue that also contains with CS:GO is that you can trade these items with other players, and that then relies back into that they can then trade these items off platform, which you're not allowed to do. It is banned to do that. But then they'll take those items, sell them for real world money, and then gamble with them that way. And that's one way kids nowadays are getting around this to be able to gamble under the age of 21. And even adults are doing this where they'll take these items that they receive and then go on to other websites, trade them to them. They'll give them money and they can do whatever they'd like with this. This is something that the gaming studios have cracked down on, but it's very hard to actually keep it completely down because new websites pop up, new ways to get around stuff always is occurring, and unfortunately there's not a huge incentive for them to ban these things. Even though it looks good for them to ban them, they make money off selling these loot boxes to kids and to these people that are buying them. So this is one way that, like, unfortunately, it's like there's a negative towards it, but like it needs to be done, and there needs to be a reward for gaming studios to ban these loot boxes. Like, for example, like Path of Exile is a game I've played, and they have banned loot boxes for themselves because it has made it easier, because they can just give a reward for you just purchase that product directly. It's a healthier and less toxic thing to the players at that point. Yeah. And the sources I used here is the first one's the Global Playground, Young People, Digital Citizens, and Loot Boxes. Really, there's a very good section there just going over how China's dealt with loot boxes, their policies, and just the different ways they've gone about it. And then you have the Alice and some loot boxes, links with problem gambling and motivations for purchase. This is the Royal studies that goes through, and they did a study back in 2018 or 2019 at this point. They published it in 2019, but they thoroughly go through surveying people, trying to draw the connections between loot boxes and problematic gambling, and just seeing how that where that kind of has gone at this point. And they were seeing correlations back then. We're now 6 years out, where you have so many more options for gambling, be it FanDuel, be it all these sports betting issues. So it's like we're already seeing that in other areas, and this is an area that they were already looking at years ago and seeing it getting bigger over time.